What's up, YouTube? Today we're working on the CB360, and I thought I'd share a little of what we've done to this pile. So we bought this not running. It was $200, and I'd passed on a CB360 many years ago, and I always thought it was a neat bike, so I really wanted it. And against my better judgment, I picked it up. It was totally ruined. Functionally mostly there. Messed up wiring harness. Hadn't run in probably 10 years. Covered in oil, gunked up, gas tank was gross, the carbs were gross. So I've put a new ignition on it. We've got a lithium iron polymer battery, one of those super lightweight, actually really nice batteries. Highly recommended. It's probably not going to make a difference in the overall weight, but just for convenience, and it's like no drain. I haven't had to charge it at all, except for when Mrs. Shinyside was learning and stalled it one too many times. But even then, it held up to a lot. New carburetors. These are Mikuni VM30s from Dime City. Love those guys. Got to give them a shout out. I don't make anything on that, but I really like their service. Their prices are pretty good too. But really knowledgeable crew. We've got a Mac 2-in-1. I actually don't love this. I love the look of it, but I repacked it with a whole bunch of muffler packing because the noise the tone wasn't great and it was really loud. It's still pretty loud, but at least the tone is better. We've got new coils. The originals had completely melted. A few minutes with the ignition on, actually had the wax that was inside the original one dripping out around the electrical connections. It just completely overheated. Something had failed inside. So these are XT600. The one caveat here is I had to bring the input connections, the actual power coming in on the factory is here, so I had to extend the harness a little bit. Coming around to the other side, well, we've got a new headlight. I hated the factory bracket here. It was like this square thing that, I don't know, made no sense. And once you replace the bucket, may as well replace the gauges and new stainless brake line. And we got rid of the big chunky signals. See, brand new all the way down, and a completely remanufactured brake caliper, which was necessitated by the old one just being pitted and ruined. I've got electronic ignition, so we've got the PAMCO CB360 ignition, which is excellent, really easy to install. It made sense because I was going to cut up some wires. I just replaced the whole thing. It's kind of the key here. Replace, if there's any question about it. So it's running pretty well. I think because of this, you can tell here that there's a little bit of this missing. I trimmed this. I actually intended to bend it down, but it's such cheap pot metal that it just broke. This actually pressed right onto the petcock and pulled the tank to this side just enough that the edge of the tank was rubbing. You can see this little piece of foam I have here. This bare spot was rubbed from the seam of the tank, and I think there's a small weeping leak from that corner of the tank. So I've got some POR 15, whatever it is, tank sealer coming. It's enough that it weeps a little bit and gets this portion wet overnight. So I'm not going to worry about it too much, but it definitely needs to get fixed. And with this tab gone, the tank should sit center again. Pay attention, guys. We've got a CB360. I think I've got a pretty standard petcock. Whee! Pretty standard petcock. I actually don't know that the one that was on there was factory, but it looked just like this. Another part that was completely ruined. So check that you've got good fitment, because if not, you may ruin your gas tank. A bit more than that, and I don't think a sealer would fix it. So today we're doing valve adjustments. We're adjusting the tappet clearance, and I just thought I'd show you guys a little technical stuff. Now, this might not be the way the pros do it, but if you've got a little time and a little fiddling, basically, that's going to be tough to show you. Right in here, and hopefully we're centered. I've got an off-center camera, so I have no idea where I'm looking. There's a cam that turns here with a lobe that lifts this and presses in on the valve at the right time. So the cam has lobes that are offset to fire each of these valves at the appropriate time. And if your valve clearance, your tappet clearance, is wrong, either you're going to leave it open too long, it's not going to open enough, it's going to open a little bit late as well. It's important to have that happen precisely, and it does. You're not going to see a ton of wear, especially not on modern bikes, but it's something you do need to keep an eye on, and I try to check it at least once a season. Haven't done it, thought I better have everything just tip-top before I go tuning these. I've got the carburetor tuned pretty close. But before I get too far off track, let's go through the steps. So now, this is pretty similar for most bikes. There's a T mark and an LT mark, and that's left cylinder top and right cylinder top. And that would be when the piston is all the way up. There should be nothing, no pressure on these because they both need to be fully closed. So when there's tension there, the valve is actually pressed into the engine and air can escape past it, or on this side, air can escape into the cylinder. That's air and fuel as well. But basically, when you do the left side, you want LT, and it has to be on I believe, the compression stroke. So there's a 4-stroke engine. You can have it on the wrong revolution, basically. One's filling and emptying, and I won't bore you too much with that. It's honestly far more than we need to get into. But basically, 4-stroke, you can have the top mark on the wrong stroke, and basically, if there's tension there, you're on the wrong one. Give it another full revolution. Not a big deal, and you can feel there's no slack there. And if we come around to this side, we might even be able to hear it. You can tell when it's slack. There's not a lot of clearance here. It's 3 thousandths and 2 thousandths, or was that 0.05 millimeter to 0.08 millimeter, and they differ slightly. But basically, you're going to use your feeler gauge, and you want. I'll be quiet so we can hear this. A little bit of drag, and a very wise person on a forum told me they use the go no go method. So I've got the next biggest, and I can cram that in there, but only just. I mean, it's really, that's very close. I'm gonna call that good. I'd rather be a hair too loose than a hair too tight. Same thing here. Now I'm cheating. I don't have a 0.03. I've got a 0.025. That happens to come right in between the two. So this side I'm gonna go just a hair tighter. That side I'm gonna go just a hair looser. It's not the most scientific way, but I promise it will be close enough. So to do the actual adjustment, I'm going to undo my adjustment here probably, but for this bike, it's a 10 mil, and you might find that some wrenches won't fit. Kind of an odd angle. That's why I've got this, really handy. Drop it on there. You can't do the final lockdown with that, though, because, hopefully you can see this, this little bit right here is what controls the depth that the tappet is pressing. What a great name, Tappet. Like, taps on something, we'll call it that. So basically, make your adjustment, hold the set screw in place, and then snug that down. There's not a lot of tension there. Do check for your torque specs. That's not something you want coming off in the bike. But there you have it. That's adjusting your valve tappets, and it will make your bike happier. You know, it's something you can pay a shop to do. Everything is. This is one of those things that's simple enough. With a little bit of diligence, if you can find a shop manual, you know, it makes it a breeze. You've got step-by-step exactly what to do. Don't be afraid of it, especially if you got an old Honda, because they're probably going to suck in some ways, but there's very little you can do to destroy them. This thing has been through hell, and it's still kicking. I'm a little jaded about it right now, but it's with us now. We're invested in this a bit too much, honestly, for what it looks like. Maybe not the best value for money. So if you're looking at a $200 bike, make sure you know what you're getting into. Otherwise, these are present on just about every motorcycle made, and this is straightforward on every single one I've ever heard of. If I'm mistaken, though, please call me out in the comments. Maybe I'm missing something, and there's something you've got to like flip the engine over and do some crazy maneuver. But that's it for me, guys. We'll do a little test and tune later. If it goes well, I'll snap some video of that, so look for that in the coming days. And if not, I'd love to hear from you guys. I know a few of you had asked for this video. I appreciate that. Hopefully this is what you're looking for. If not, keep talking to me. Let me know. I'll do what I can. Until next time, keep it shiny side up. Later.